I've personally seen people in our upline ride, no, 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 ride, defame, and slander people so they could steal their groups maliciously. And I would even go to this part, purposely cause divorces probably to be able to get people's legs or to get people out of a group that they didn't want to have in the group. That number one, it's not that they weren't working hard, it was that there's a difference between a yes man and a leader.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Crystal, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. Welcome. This is my channel where I talk about my experience while I was in Amway through an organization called LTD, which is Leadership Team Development. And I talk about everything from how I felt, how long I was in, things I experienced, how I left, why I left, even some tactics that I used to recruit people while I was in. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around and you can check out my videos. I've also been able to connect with other people who were in who had very similar experiences to me, and I've been able to find out so much more about Amway, LTD, and a whole bunch of other AMOs that just don't sit well with me. So a lot of these videos are just conversations I've been having with people and interviews that people have agreed to do to share their experience as well. So in today's interview, I get to speak with Judah Ayers. He was in LTD as well for over 20 years, and he has a lot of insight that I had no idea about. This interview is very in-depth and it's very interesting. So if that interests you, stick around and watch. And of course, I'll be back after the interview to talk more about ways to file with the FTC and more videos to come. Enjoy. Hey Judah, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much just for your time. After connecting with you through another interviewee, TJ, I have been just looking forward to meeting you because I remember hearing your name quite a bit when I was in LTD. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for sitting down with me and sharing your story. I guess introduce yourself and tell the audience who you are.
Yeah, you bet. Obviously, my name's Judah Ayers. Actually, my wife, Kara, as well. But yeah, live in Columbus, Ohio, and was part of I guess you'd call it the Amway Con for literally 20 plus years, 22 to be specific. And actually, my father was probably another 20 years my senior. So, really, as a kid, I grew up around the business. And so, add that up, I mean, you got 40 years of experience on both sides of that. And so, I saw a lot of different things growing up that I thought were right. I thought they were correct. But lo and behold, we're coming to this world, what I would call a spiritual awakening for a lot of people, because now they're starting to see the who moved my cheese topic and the handwriting on the wall. But yeah, that's my background a little bit. I never chose to be in this position. I had a successful business within, say, the Amway structure and LTD to be specific. Actually, Crystal, we were talking about this, I think, last time, is that we were part of BWW beforehand. So understanding that Brit Worldwide actually spun off to LTD, and there's a lot of things they tried to cover up and different topics from that perspective. But yeah, I know quite a bit. And I think the aspect of today is just really to educate some people that are thinking about this opportunity or maybe looking or doing homework or research and don't want to make maybe the same pitfalls of someone like yourself and myself to say, hey, you know what? Let's use some wisdom here and do our homework, do our due diligence. And you know what? The things you do see online, my upline would say this all the time. He said the majority of things are true. Well, I can validate they are true. And you know what? They don't want to make any changes. And so that's what leads us here today. But I was, I guess, what technically you can call like a whistleblower because I tried to fix things, I tried to adjust things, I tried to bring things to people's attention. And literally, what happened was I got kicked out of the business. Like, how does that happen? And so they terminated my business through a kangaroo court. And lo and behold, here we are today. And so actually, it's been very exciting. It's been very cleansing because the world that I've seen around me, I had the curtains pulled over my eyes for a lot of years.
Mhm.
And really, it's kind of like the movie The Wizard of Oz. And so as you get in there, you start to realize that there's people behind the curtain that you didn't know that what they were doing. And right now, there's people starting to see that. So,
I am so appreciative as well that everybody's starting to see it. And I didn't know that you kind of had 40 plus years in, including your parents. So I didn't, you're a legacy? Is that what I'm hearing?
not necessarily from that perspective. That's a second generation type of thing. My dad was in the business, got out of the business, then got back into the business. And so my dad was my sponsor, and which is really cool, nevertheless. But actually, I started the business originally because I wanted to spend time with my dad.
Mm.
He became a corporate executive. He worked for Ford Motor Company for, gosh, 30 years. And in that retrospect, he was gone all the time. And he started this business. And I was like, wow, maybe if I start hanging out with him and some of the things that he's doing, um, I can spend some more time with him. And anyways, along that process, there are some good things about the Amway business per se. Catching a dream, catching a vision for the things you want to do for your future. However, they're just not as obtainable as they design them or show them to be. And so it's very unique aspect, but it's kind of like the Venus flytrap. They catch their prey and then they hold on to them, and they don't want you to see what's going on behind certain things. So
Right. Right. So that's interesting. So you actually got introduced to the business through your father, wanting to spend more time with him. So tell me about the beginning. Tell me about what it was like, working with your father, seeing the business for the first time. How did you feel?
yeah, actually, like a lot of people, there's a lot of people who see the business and they catch a dream and they get excited about it. My father actually, though, and I tell people tongue in cheek, there's a difference between the business today and say what we've experienced and maybe what happened in the 80s, the 90s, and in the past, where maybe the opportunity wasn't, it's just not the same opportunity and the same things weren't covered up. There was a lot of growth back then that people could naturally grow organically. And so, anyways, long story short is they were in the business. I saw some things. I wanted to listen to one of their audios and I listened to it. I got excited because I was like, wow, these guys are going to be making some money. And I trust my dad, right? And so my dad, though, from his perspective, um, he saw the business a while back and saw some people that he thought he wanted to associate with, which we
Mhm.
all thought were really good people.
Mhm.
But lo and behold, the platinums that are in the business, and then once you start moving up in the structure, it's kind of like they leave out a couple chapters of the education along the way. And
Okay.
that's the LTD system. That's like the LTD incomes that are there that have no disclosure and the deceptive trade practices. And so there's a lot of really good people involved in the business. I would say there's a lot of people that might be ignorant or they're misled. And so, from that perspective, though, I started the business. I was really excited about it. We grew the business. It took us a little while to get things up and running, and we organized the team. I was young and dumb. And what's wild is uh, Larry Winters, Doug Weir, Joe Markowitz, all these big hat diamonds. They'll always say all the time is that, show the business to young people
Mhm.
because you know what, that's where you want to grow your business. But really, what it was that people that are 30 and above, they're seasoned. They understand things a little bit more, and they realize, you know what, they've been through this before, and you know what, they're harder to deceive.
Correct.
They got a little bit more wisdom under their belts. And
Mhm.
so I was young and dumb. And you know what? I got up and rolling, but I think there was a naive part of that aspect where a lot of people, even you, yeah, you get started in your business and you're excited because of what they portray to be truthful.
Mhm.
And what you see on stage isn't necessarily what's going on behind stage.
Mhm.
Um, there's quite a few people that, you know what, they get up on stage and say that they're emeralds and diamonds, and they're actually not. And when I started learning those types of details, I think over time you get to this point where you go, wow,
Yeah.
I thought I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Yeah, no, that's a great point, I guess we can segue into that. You go in with great intentions, because you're sold a dream and you think, well, okay, I'm going to build this business. I'm going to, get free, as they say. And you're thinking that you're doing it the right way. But as you kind of pull the curtains back, you see all of the deception that is layered on top of each other to kind of manipulate you into doing what they want you to do. So talk a little bit about that. Talk about, you said you guys built the business up. Did your father leave? How was building it for you, and when did you start to realize the deception that you were being fed and participating in?
Yeah, I think that's a really good topic. So the years prior, my dad was involved in, say, the late, maybe early 80s to the 80s, then early 90s, and then exited for a period of time, and then came back in the 2000s time frame when Quickstar started up rolling because there was excitement and some things there. And then they transitioned back to Amway, and that was a very interesting topic. But nevertheless, I think when I started the business, he was already successful. He was a corporate executive for Ford Motor Company.
Mhm.
But what it was he was going back to his memories of what he saw happening during the 80s. And he thought he could repeat that now because now he had some more time. And I think he just wanted to set a really good example. And you know what they do? They teach some really good values in terms of on the surface.
Mhm.
But once you start digging into things, you can say you're a Christian all you want, but if
Mhm.
you're lying out the side of your mouth and manipulating data and not telling the truth on certain topics, you're now misleading people and doing it for the wrong reasons. And I would call that an abomination to the Lord
Mhm.
to do those tough sort of things.
Mhm.
And so, anyways, I don't know if that made some sense.
No, yeah, keep going. That's great.
Uh, my whole aspect was I built the business. We went I think 4,000, then we went to 6,000, then we went back to 2,500. Uh, I think over time, uh, I think I sponsored between 70 to 100 people personally. Um,
Really?
yeah. So we were just in the process of, after we went platinum, we broke multiple downline platinums. We had a very successful business, and financially, it was very rewarding. We made thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, over the 22 years that I was involved,
Mhm.
and I was proud of it. Um, Up until I started realizing that I was being misled. And what do I mean by that? You're like, hey, how can this guy who's being successful being misled? Well, we have to rewind and go back to it's hard to go through everything as a story per se, but my upline was an upline by the name of Douglas Weir,
Mhm.
and he was made as like a poster child for the Amway business.
Mhm.
And at one time, you know what? He built his business. I think he did it legitimately for a period of time.
Okay.
But there happened to be a season after the 2008 crash where literally the business wasn't working properly. We had what was called a resistance. There was a headwind to a lot of people in the business. But what's happened is in the business, they teach what is called, gosh, I'll just put it this way. They have egos that have been derived of idolism. So once you become say, a diamond per se, or an emerald per se, everyone will follow you around like the Pied Piper. And the alignment, your spiritual alignment, which maybe I'm just a Christian, so I believe, from that perspective. Um, However, some people start putting the business above their Lord and Savior.
Yes.
Well, Judd, how can you say that? No, the reason why I can say that is because I've witnessed it. I've personally witnessed it. And I've seen people say, you know what, they now put their business as an idol before their family, before their work, before their church, before their values. And what's happened is now that you say you're promoted as a diamond, you have this image that you have to live up to, and then the whole organization, everyone puts peer pressure on you to say, hey, you need to be requalified. Well,
Hmm.
what's that mean? Well, if
Mhm.
a leg or an organization falls out of qualification, you'll do whatever you can to build it back. Well, okay, let's legitimately go sponsor more people. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what happens when you don't sponsor enough people and then you start looking at the rest of your group and going, who's not a 7,500 PVer?
Hmm.
Who would like to be one? Let's work out a deal maybe. How about we maybe we transfer some volume over to you innocently, right? Over a period of time. And what's happened is the business just kept sliding for a lot of people. And so now you start seeing legs that would pop up and requalify as new Q12 Platinums, but they only had maybe 15 people in their group. That's not how the business works. That's not integrity. That's
Right.
not courage. That's not duty. That's not honor. We'd have a lot of people that would come to functions, and you know what? They'd have what's called a 650,
Uh-huh.
650 qualification.
Hmm.
And so I'd have a lot of people on my team that, you know what, I'd want to help them win. I had a properly structured business. Matter of fact, we built our business. They have, what's called 650, 975, 12100, all these other things. And you move on up to Emerald and Diamond.
Hmm.
Well, I was a 12100 in our business. And I remember lots of people, good meaning people, sitting on my own couch, working this business hard, working it hard, grown men crying
Mm.
because they're just not getting it done. And you know what? The motto from an open meeting or from a stage is the amount of guilt that these organizations will put on people to get people to requalify turns into a selfish need for an upline. And quite honestly, the business I think could be fixed in terms of certain topics that they have out there, but they're not into wanting to fix or resolve those types of things. And so I'd see certain people that would say, well, hey, what I was taught, you're not showing enough plans. You're just not doing enough work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the reality is a lot of these people, this is one of the things that I tell people all the time. The Amway business is not a normal business from this perspective, at least today. You can't do an honest amount of work and get an honest amount of results. You just can't.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because, and we'll get into this later, the Amway business, from the ownership all the way down to a lot of the diamonds, there has been corruption that has seeped in. And I'll tell everybody this straight up. I don't care what you believe. You can't outrun Deuteronomy 28 in the Bible. And what that means is this, is that the sins of omission, if you're going to try to cover up and hide certain details and topics for, I don't know, we won't get into those topics yet. But if you're going to hide certain things, guess what? You're going to have a revolving door business. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't have that problem.
Yes.
Bullpucky.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. And you know what? What's happened is you talk about these types of things is that they would talk about, hey, LTD 100,000 strong. We're going to have an LTD Coliseum built over, say, whatever. That was
Mhm.
a vision that they cast. That's a good, healthy vision.
Yeah.
But there's a problem when 10 years goes by and really the numbers don't grow at all. And revolving door, people get out, and all you're doing is replacing people.
Mm.
So if you're replacing more people than you're bringing in and keeping, what's the problem? And this gets back to what we're really talking about. That is the deception, the overpricing of products, the way things work, an upline turning a blind eye to, hey, you're a 650, right? Well, don't mind that you bought three different legs that you just called out of the yellow pages and paid with it with your own credit card to get qualified as a 650. Um, I've seen this stuff in my downline. I've seen it in my cross line. I've seen it in my upline.
Yeah.
People buy tickets to get the earned recognition. It's like crack. It's like a drug addict. They have to have that ego. idolism, recognition that, hey, you didn't fall back and you'll do anything to requalify. And so I've seen it happen multiple times at multiple levels. But here's part of the problem. This is where things really started going off for me. I had an issue with a couple people in my organization doing just that.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I took it, you know what the thing they say, go coach with your upline,
Yeah.
get with your upline, do all those types of stuff. I
Uh-huh.
brought this information to them, and what did they tell me? First go around, it was kind of like, hey, they appeased me, and they just let it go under the bridge. And that person's life really started to go off track because now we are now ingraining into them that this was an okay practice to lie, cheat, and steal.
Mhm.
And I saw this guy's wife turn against this guy. And I tried to help through the process, but now you start looking at this and going, wow,
Yeah.
wow, my
Yeah.
upline should care to want to have to address and fix this issue. Well, guess what? What do they get paid on for conferences and functions?
The ticket.
Cheeks in the seats, ticket sales. And we heard all the time was, well, hey, we have an LTD ticket sale return policy. They can get their money back.
No, they didn't.
Well, that's what they would tell us.
But it wasn't true.
But the reality is the upline never wanted to pay it out. They never wanted to say, hey, we're going to uphold that value. But ultimately, so if these people sold themselves into a conference and bought over and manipulated the volume and the amount of legs that they have just to get earned recognition, um, if you're going to get up on Sunday morning and do a church service about Christ, I want to make sure that it's the same Christ that I'm following that tells the truth. And so what we do is we find people that it become not only hypocrites, but now they start endorsing these things and just letting more things slide under the rug. And so I'd seen multiple diamonds get qualified that fall out of diamond qualification, and they're diamonds forever now. But then you realize, hey, they don't go on to the Peter Island trips. They don't go back to Hawaii. They don't go to all these other things, but then they
Yeah.
still promote them like they are. And so there's just a lot of things that happen that most people don't know about.
And see,
And
that's the thing. A lot of what you're saying, most people don't know about because from someone like when I got in, you were just told they were a diamond, you believed it. You didn't know to question it. You didn't know whether it was true or not. They told you that that person was a diamond, so you believed it. Not now that I'm out of it and I've researched stuff and I realize that these folks, haven't qualified officially diamond in forever. You're kind of just like, well, so you were on stage lying, you know what I mean? This whole time you were just saying stuff to kind of emotionally manipulate us into building the business to further your own goals. You know what I mean?
well, this is where things get really interesting is that once you're, say, at that level for a period of time, you may have, say, I don't know, out of the 70 to 100 people I sponsored, say I got twelve different organizations coming to a conference, right? Through there, I got hundreds of people in the downline, right? Is it easier for me to go sponsor a new leg or for me to go blow out a leg and then receive their downline?
I guess so. Because then you
I've,
get other people.
I've personally seen people in our upline ride, no, ride, defame, and slander people so they could steal their groups maliciously. And I would even go to this part, purposely cause divorces probably to be able to get people's legs or to get people out of a group that they didn't want to have in the group. That number one, it's not that they weren't working hard, it was that there's a difference between a yes man and a leader. Hey, Crystal, she does everything I ask her to do. She does her volume every month. She does her standing order. She buys tools. She comes to every meeting. She comes early and she stays late. I don't care if she's making a profit. She's there every single week. And what I will do is I will treat her with respect. I will love on her. I will tell her she is amazing. I will give her what are called love bombs. I'm sorry, but that's deceitful.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely deceitful because in them upline's mind, and I've heard it from my own upline, a diamond. He's like, leave them alone. Stop working with them. They're not worth it. And I'd be like, what are you talking? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I cared about every single person in my downline and in my organization. And when I found out my upline didn't even care about me or my downline, I was like, game over.
Mm.
These people literally, it came down to their own dollars and cents. And, they work themselves out of their own jobs. But, right, what happens is they get accustomed to the lifestyle that they have and they turn into vipers to be able to protect it.
So I want to highlight two things that you said that were two things for me that I was like, this is insane. So the first thing that you said was the idolatry of diamonds, basically. They want
Right.
you to blindly follow your diamonds, even your upline platinums. You were just taught to blindly follow them, always consult up, right? It was always consult your upline. Every decision has to go through your upline. And I never did that. I was like, I don't even know you. Like one of my upline coaches was like, I don't know you. I don't know you. That's a no for me. But that same upline would say things to me like, I run all of my decisions through my business. And as a believer, I was like, so you're basically putting your business as your God because instead of praying about everything, you're now running everything through your business to see if it can accommodate your business. And I don't think that she realized that was idolatry, but me hearing it, I was just like, and they made it seem like that's how you had to be to make it in the business. And I just knew I was like, I can never do that. I don't, this is a business. It could all fall apart. If Amway falls apart, I won't have a business. You know what I mean? And the second thing that you said was about the use of religion and then preaching sermons on Sunday and collecting a tithe even. There was the first conference I went to, my upline diamond, he preached and he picked up like an offering slash tithe. And I was like, I'm not like I'm not giving you a tithe. I was really caught off guard by the Sunday service and it took me a little while to realize it was just a manipulation tactic, ultimately, to get people to do what they wanted to do. And the other point you brought up about putting in all this work, I mean, there was one point where I had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting with people and potential people I could sponsor, and it didn't get anywhere. And I was kind of just told like, oh, there's something you're not doing, or
You're not
you
doing it
lack
right.
belief. Yeah, you're lacking belief and all kind of nonsense. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, if it's a business is gonna work the way you say it's gonna work, right? But it wasn't always ABC. You know what I mean? So I
I
really,
sure do. I sure do. And the
yeah.
reason why too is a lot of people don't know this, but I was kind of like the back end to helping LTD actually set up some of their back office stuff
Mm,
for success stories and audios online and the virtual office and some of these topics where literally the whole program of what they set up, um, that was set up for people to be able to utilize. It was great. But what happens is people see um, the product. They're buying this product, and they want to be able to have this product as, hey, the best product on the market of success, right? It's supposed to be a success university. But what's happened is the tools have turned into the main business, and Amway is a side product.
mm.
And in reality, if people figured it out, I mean, LTD is actually a better business than Amway.
Oh, okay. So they figured
Number
it
one,
out.
you make more money through it and you have influence. However, I think it's Amway's the part that actually destroys it because what happens is you've now got to create the volume of overpriced products. And they try to drive you to like, well, hey, they did 150 points. Let's see if we can get them to 300. Hey, let's see if we can get them to 600 points. And the problem is when you do that with a single person or a couple that has no downline, And you say, well, hey, we'll get them, let's have to have a qualifier event. We'll sell some stuff. A lot of people, they'll sell some items, but a lot of people, they're buying it themselves. And that's where things turn into just a debt problem. You know, we'd
Mm,
have so many people, including myself. I did it multiple times for my upline, where I would go into debt because I wanted to qualify for something. Um, and I showed enough plans to do what needed to be done. It's just that today, like you were talking about, you show the plan to somebody, you think, hey, they're all excited, they're ready to get involved. They're a normal, logical business decision. You come out, you see the plan, you see how it works, you get excited, and you want to start building the business. Only one problem. You have to go online and you have to talk to people and you start to see, oh, this is not maybe what I thought it was.
mm.
Wow, some other people had some bad experiences. Well, people say the internet's the bathroom wall of society. Well, if there's a lot of and extra and great videos like this that are out there that are confirming, warning, warning, warning,
Yeah.
take another look. You might want to just pause and think about it for a minute because we're not making stuff up. These are real live issues that, people are dealing with. And so we designed a whole system of LTD to bypass the internet. What do I mean by that? The mental structure, what did we do? Well, we wanted everybody to go into LTD, close the door, and not look at Facebook, not look at Instagram, not look at all these other places. We even came up with the point, let's create an LTD media app and phone communication system that's locked out from the world. I was in those meetings.
Wow. So that's how that stuff came about.
Yeah, and so we launched an entire system, phone communication systems, all the stuff. Very cool stuff. The only problem is once that is your main contact
Mhm.
and people now are 100% sold out to your agenda, they lose their own thinking ability. And I never wanted anybody in my organization to lose their own thinking process
Mhm.
because we don't want to create zombies. Matter of fact, they even call them in the business, they call them ambots.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a theory. I mean, I guess I can't prove it. But I can prove some other topics is that there's a thing called MK Ultra. MK Ultra is a CIA program that basically brainwashes people into a status or a state of basically focus to where they can't think for themselves. They're programmed to do what you tell them to do.
Oh my.
And so, how does that happen? Let's talk about this. I started researching this topic because of somebody else. And what's interesting is that your brain can only process and consume about 6 hours of content
Okay.
properly.
Hmm.
But once that happens, after 6 hours, function, it's late night, it's 10 o'clock. We're now going in, your butt's been in a function seat all day.
Yeah.
Your brain now goes into another status where it's kind of shut off. And now they're saying at 11 o'clock at night, show the plan 6 nights a week.
And I knew that there was some kind of tactic because I would be so sleepy like during the conferences and I'm like, I can't even think. I just want to go to sleep. That was done purposely.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I think from the history. There's a lot of history, which we'll go into a little bit later. But ultimately, audios. If you're listening to these audios, what you're supposed to listen to one a day?
Yeah.
No, wait, 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 wait. I'm going to get you up at your open meeting if you listen to 10 a day, right? And you're going to get praise and they're going to recognize you and all this other type of stuff. Well, there's a part where your brain is a computer and you hard write over the program that you currently have. And now you're to the point where some of these people, they'll absolutely block out. So now, whatever you say, whatever we're saying, they have been programmed to call it negative. And once something's negative, they're not going to listen to it. And that cancels out anything else that you said. And now you sound like Womp, 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 womp. Charlie Brown, right? You
It,
know,
it,
it's
but it's true because
totally true.
even when I was in and people would say things to me, it was like I had the brainwashing had begun and I was like defending the business so much. And it wasn't everything they were saying made sense, but because it didn't sound like an audio or like my uplines, I was defending the business, but the brainwashing had already begun, you know?
Oh, I do know. And it's so cool because you know what? I wasn't even in your open meeting. Matter of fact, I had a guy who was an Emerald in Worldwide.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll connect him with you. You guys need to talk, but he's in Worldwide and he's gone through the exact same problems I did. Exact same. How is that possible to be on the other side of the United States in a completely separate organization dealing with the exact same problems?
Wow. Wow. And at one point, I thought about leaving LTD and going to a different
No
AMO.
way.
Yeah, I was like, maybe if I go to Brit Worldwide, and I thought about it, and I was like, I wonder if it would be the exact same issues that I'm running into now. And it looks like it would be.
More or less, a lot of the issues come back to the original process. So these original process where they have these 19 player steps and the four basics and everything else that was set up, these were things that originally came from the Jaegers and the Brits over time. And honestly, I'd say some of them were probably really good concepts and programs for building a business. Just the Amway business, it ran its course
Mm.
and it should have sunset at a certain period of time and then redesigned and built as something new, better. But what happened is the owners and the uplines on the IBUA board, these people, there's certain things they were not about to change because they didn't want to affect their incomes and they didn't want to affect the corporation's margins.
So we talked about you sponsoring quite a bit of people, actually growing the business. You're actually seeing some money come in. It's actually working for you until you realize just that people are viewed more as like numbers and not really people and not like human beings, right? Tell me about when you felt like it was time to walk away or what led up to. I know we talked about the deception that you're experiencing, but when did you decide, like, you know what, I think I might need to step away? Or you said you didn't step away, you got kicked out. So talk about that.
So there's some unique topics there. So everyone's has this other voice over here telling you, hey, it's not working, or certain things that you know what you should be paying attention to, which are called logic. Um, but there was times in my business where you know what I was like, hey, this isn't working the way it should be working. The amount of effort that you're putting into it, you're not seeing the fruit per se that's coming from it. But then you go to another conference and the brainwashing or the programming of the guilt, and then your cross-line buddies that you know what, you didn't realize that they actually succeeded and they went to the next pin level, but then you find out later that they manipulated the volume to get there. And you're like, man, it is such a circus behind the scenes that no one's talking about it. And then you get some these people up on stage and they brag on them for like 45 minutes or an hour and then give them the microphone and you're like, man, I'm going to be up there next time.
Yep.
But it was a pit of a lie.
Wow.
And then you realize like 2 months, 3 months later, that guy and his wife get a divorce. And, but wait, you just said that they had a great marriage and they were locked in and they were focused and everything was going great. But and then they apologized later. Well, their marriage wasn't all great. You know, they were cheating and they were doing all those other type of things. And but they knew about it. The upline knew about it, and
Wow.
everyone else knew about it. But now it's taboo to even talk about it. These were topics when I saw these things happen in your brain, you check it and go, okay, well, maybe that's just not happening in my team or in my business or in my life. So everything's okay.
Hmm.
Um, but you see these happen quite a bit. The where I saw the problem for myself is when an upline, like the head of the IBOA board of North America,
Hmm. Yeah.
he's he's the head honcho, right?
Yeah.
So he should care about these types of things. He doesn't give a rip. Doesn't give a rip. And when you see that type of stuff happen, it's all about their own money. And matter of fact, you bring it up and they're like, uh, you don't bring those things up. Don't talk about that. You got to be positive. Don't be negative. Matter of fact, I brought up a couple topics and they're like, well, hey, your breath stinks. You're like, why? Because I presented the truth to you.
Oh my
I
gosh.
presented the truth. I'm sorry, but pal, but I'm a leader, not a follower.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so I'm going to stand on principles on what's right and what's not wrong. And so I did. I saw certain things under the curtain that were just wrong. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to exit out. This isn't for me. This isn't for me. But then I move on to the next conference and I'd stick around and I want to help my people. It was
Yeah.
this bad cycle. It's like a dog returning to its vomit, right?
Yeah.
And so I stuck around again. And you know what? Those years turned in more years. And but here was the glory. And this is something that people are going to learn is that this truth is coming out whether people like it or not.
Hmm.
You squeeze out the toothpaste, you can't put it back in the tube.
Yeah.
And that is the things that I spoke to my upline about, and that's what they tried to cover up. And the problem was they knew about these things that were going on with the corporation for years, and no one wanted to talk about it. And that was their relationship with the United Nations. Once you start to understand who the UN is, this gets into a Luciferian relationship.
Mm.
And when you start getting in these topics, you start understanding, these aren't conspiracy theories anymore. But you look at the Red Cross as a government organization, right? Well, you check out on the Amway website, why is the Red Cross a partner to Amway?
Yep.
And you start digging into these topics. I won't go through them all at the moment, but Amway is the government.
And the thing is that they are because they fund so much of politics and they have so much control of what's going on. And when I realized that, I was just like, what's really going on here?
Yeah. So this is where things completely turn into a different topic. And when you start to realize that they are the government, they are private corporate partnership. And that private corporate partnership is a designed effort to buy off politicians on the left and the right. And actually, it's more of them on the right, but it's not a political topic. Well, Mike, Amway contract, this is where I started seeing things really odd. I think it was 2015.
Hmm.
I signed my Amway contract, and when it signed it that year, and it says, you cannot talk about politics or religion from an LTD stage anymore. And I was
Oh,
like, ruh-roh,
I
what,
didn't know
what are
that.
you talking about here?
Yeah.
Because I realized long ago they were already paying Mitch McConnell. They were already paying John McCain. They were already paying Mitt Romney. They were already paying all these politicians for all their stuff to do really bad things to our country. And I'd actually, I brought some of these things too, outside of PV manipulations, outside of registrations of fraud of illegal IBOs, outside of false diamonds. And
Hmm.
think about this. If you're a false diamond getting up on stage and that upline who's the IBUA board member, right?
Hmm.
And is now saying, hey, listen to this guy. He's got a successful business. He's doing all this other types of stuff. Well, he's now committing fraud because he already knows in his head he's lying to all these people.
Mm.
And then you start looking at this. This is where I really started really dialing into things. Was the head of legal and ethics for Amway,
I didn't know that.
my upline.
I didn't know that.
And I brought an issue to him about legal and ethics. And what did he do? He ran me over with the bus and then drove over me again and then called me a conspiracy theorist because he didn't want people to find out that his legs, basically 6, 7, and 8 or whatever, lots of fake volume moving around, different fake qualifications happening. And so they're like, well, hey, we'll just get rid of this guy. He'll be easy. He'll go away. And so they did a lot of things to me per
Mm.
se because I knew where the bodies were buried. I knew what was going on behind the scenes. And so they didn't want me to speak. Well, lo and behold, this is where things really blew up, right? This is where it goes really bad.
Mhm.
This is January 6th. A lot of people hear about this, and this is where things are starting to come out. January 6th, I went with about 30 different guys and ladies, Amway IBOs, right? We went to the Capitol on January 6th to support our country, whether you believe in the left or right or Donald Trump or not, doesn't matter. But in the Amway business, we went there to pray for our country, right? And on that day, when people start to understand what's unraveling here, I didn't realize Amway actually paid Mike Pence $90 million to fund him to run against Donald Trump and to destroy the United States so the United Nations could take over as a North American continent for the UN. And that's not a conspiracy theory. Um, when I started realizing what was going on here, all the politicians were all paid off by the DeVos and the Van Andels. And it goes totally south from there. Anyways, long story short was I brought this up to my upline's attention, and immediately they were like, you better shut up. The
Wow.
worst part was they already knew about it. So now you know about this. You've got thousands of people that you're supposed to be coaching and mentoring.
Hmm.
You literally have a seared consciousness that can't even choose to do the right thing when your back's against the wall. And at that moment, I knew I was like, man, what do I just tuck tail, keep my income, and be quiet?
You couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. I sat on it for a couple nights, and ultimately, here was the gift. They started going down in my organization, and they started discrediting me with other people. And they started saying, hey, Judd's a conspiracy theorist. Hey, don't listen to him about this volume stuff over here. Hey, don't listen to him about these PB transfers over here. Hey, don't listen to him about these illegal registrations over here. Hey, don't listen to him about this Mike Pence topic over here. Hey, don't listen to him about his COVID theories that he has. Because the jabs, right, or the shots, they were made basically with Amway profits.
Wow.
And so once you start getting into these topics or details, they
Hmm.
didn't want anything to do with me. They're like, hey, get him out of here. And so they sent me a cease and desist order.
I was gonna say, what did they do to devise to get you out? So they sent you a cease and desist.
Yeah, they sent me a cease and desist order. Well, guess what? You're supposed to have in the Amway rules and guidelines and for LTD and Amway, you're supposed to have a peer review of six of your, I guess, peers, right? Well, guess what? They just said, and I wrote them a letter requesting that review,
Okay.
and they came back and said, nope, you're denied.
On what
I'm like,
basis?
wait a second, you just broke my rules of conduct.
Yeah, of what you're
And so then
denied.
the clock starts ticking and it says, hey, if you don't resolve this within a certain period of time, we terminate your business. Well, they had already 6 months prior to went down in my organization and started telling people, hey, he's not right. There's something wrong with him. Hey, don't listen to him. If he brings something up about any of this type of stuff. And some people came to me with it and said, hey, something's wrong because I know you. You are stellar.
Oh.
And they're picking the wrong battle.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, awesome. But then the people below them, guess what? They were just the sheep of the herd.
Yeah, yeah,
Listen to audios, go to open meetings, do what we wanted to do. They turned into, and unfortunately turned into what's called an ambot, a zombie.
yeah.
And what they're doing today is they're just forking their money over because someone wants to give them a love bomb
Mm.
And today, I would look at it in the organization. I tell everybody all the time, if you think you're making money in this business, you're an emerald or you're a diamond, show me your P&L.
Your profit and loss. Hmm.
Yep. Because Doug Weir himself even said it. Emeralds don't even break even sometimes.
What?
Yep. Yeah. So you get into these topics where there's certain groups because of the volumes and things that are going on. These people start relying on the LTD system income. So now they'll start an open meeting and then they'll profit the open meeting funds and try to grow the amount of people that aren't even their own downline so they can get crossline to come to the open meeting and now they're living off of their LTD open meeting funds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it gets wild. And then they'll do team meetings, right? They'll badmouth another Crossline LTD member or a Crossline BWW member and say, hey, why don't you come to my team meeting? Because I'll do it better. And it has nothing to do about their success in Amway because, again, they're not making money in Amway. It's that they want them to come over to their LTD system tool system income because now they make money off of the LTD system,
That's sick.
audios, books, conferences. And that is the main source of income because these diamonds, they make more money through LTD than they do Amway. And so technically, when you look at that whole structure, they they never even mention it. It's a deceptive trade practice, which
Hmm.
means when you go to an Amway info session, which you've been to them, we go to them online, there is zero disclosure. There's zero disclosure. Actually, I should do it like this because this is how they roll.
All right.
Um, but they have zero disclosure for the LTD income side, even when you become a platinum and above.
That's illegal. Isn't that illegal somehow? That's
Oh, it
ridiculous.
totally is. It totally is. But here's what it's been. Until now, the world is changing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what it's been is they've been able to blackmail and buy off judges, political offices, and all kinds of other things to just slide things through. They were able to do it in Canada. They're able to do it here in the United States. They're able to do it in foreign countries. And what people don't really realize is that Amway's in, we'll just say 80 plus countries around the world.
Hmm.
I will tell everybody this that the CIA, well, CIA
CIA.
and the FBI, they have a vested interest in making sure that Amway keeps rolling because it has infiltrated most countries and most businesses to move their political objectives for China's purposes and reasons. And so what they want is they want a China first agenda and not an America first agenda. And this is where things get really off and really weird because all of the leadership at Amway is now China first.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Very
Um,
interesting to say. Guess where the largest Amway businesses are in the world?
I thought it was India, but you're saying it's China?
It's China now.
Hmm.
And so China is ruling the roost. In fact, what a lot of people don't know, and this is where I had a problem with the guys in LTD. They say we're Christians, right? They say we're believers. They say we're Americans. They say we're patriots. They say we're entrepreneurs, right? They say all these topics and things. But when it came push come to shove, what they did, what Amway was doing is they were partnered with the UN, and the UN had their new rules for online transactions. And China said, hey, we're going to allow you to build the business in China. And now Amway was taking the Chinese practices and implementing them back into the United States. Track, surveil, and trace. VCS, every cell phone that you make a product or sale has to be tracked through a cell phone sale. You know what that's called? That's called UN resolution. You
Hmm.
cannot buy or sell without a cell phone. And so there's a lot of things this gets off. It's not a political topic. this goes into Amway, the leadership has always been focused on developing tyranny, and the house always wins, which means lots of people in Amway can do a lot of money funding, and there's a very few who will make money. And then downline, we don't care if they make any money because that transfers to the upline no matter what. And so the thing is, what people don't want to know is what Amway's actually doing with the money behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would tell everybody is the topics that are really concerning is what is the NDA? What is in the contract of these LTD or Amway IBOs on the IBA board? Because every single one of them turned a blind eye and said, I don't want to talk about it. And so
Keep
that
it.
is when you get into that, there's a topic called blackmail. There is another topic called treason, and there's another topic called misprison. And misprison is knowing about a crime and not reporting it.
My.
And so these guys all across the board have been involved in these topics, and none of them came forward in terms of telling the truth. And
Greed.
so,
It's the spirit of greed that's just taken over, it sounds like.
yeah, well, it's taken over, but that gets into. So let's do this. I want to launch an investigation in some way, shape, or form, whether that's eventually we'll get some good congressmen in there sometime. We'll eventually get some good local representative in somewhere sometime. But I want to audit, like, so for example, here's a really valid question. How many diamonds around the world are actually real?
I would
And
like
then how many are maybe paid? These are just hypotheticals. How many are actually paid to just penetrate a country or a area to excite people, to get enthusiasm, to try to grow a business? You know, they got incentive. They could pay people any way they want to.
Mhm. Hmm.
So, anyways, that's a little bit about what's been happening, and
Well,
there's a whole rabbit trail of a lot of other stuff. I launched my website called wewillstand.info.
so
And
wait, before we get into that, can you
yeah,
talk about so after the cease and desist, after all that, and you got kicked out, what is there in between the website that you have and you being kicked out?
yeah. So technically, what I did was I had like 4 or 5 conversations with multiple diamonds and regarding this topic, and then I personally wrote a handwritten letter, and I actually delivered it to.
Mhm.
And he was going to be at the IBUA board that day in Amway at the Grand Rapids Amway Grand, and I hand delivered it to him. And so he sent me a text message, probably, I don't know, maybe a half hour afterwards. And he said, our relationship is over. Well, what did the letter really say? What the letter really said was, I want to have a meeting with you to discuss how we can fix things. And his reply back to me was, our relationship is over. And then ultimately, weeks before that, he told me, he says, I will do whatever I can to remove you from this business. And because I am part of the head, I am the chairman of the IBUA board, I can do whatever I want. And the voting members, they're going to vote with me. So it doesn't matter what you say or do, you're done.
No.
And so they implemented mob rule. They tried to just force me out, push me over. And guess what? They bypassed all the rules, regulations, and laws of the Constitution too. And
Hmm.
so there's processes that you can't break to be able to just do those things. And he took it upon himself, along with to basically ruin me. And
Wow.
all I did was ask a few questions, and it was out of the care for my people that were
Mhm.
in my businesses because I didn't want to see them financially get hurt, and I
Mhm.
didn't want to see people stealing from them anymore. And so it turned into this whole thing where they blew out of proportion regarding the political topics. And really, the conversations revolving the Covey and the heart exploders and the jabbers and all these things that now people we're going to have to look to history as to what never to happen ever again. And a lot of that has a center base around these Amway families of what they've been doing. They were posing as Christians
Yeah,
when in reality they're full-blown Luciferians. And the worst part was my upline knew about it and stayed with them.
that's crazy.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So this isn't one of those normal Amway stories of this guy was negative and he just left the business and he never built it and he wasn't successful and all this other type of stuff. Yada yada yada. No, I loved what I did, but I was not willing to hurt people any longer, and I was not willing to commit treason against my own country by knowing about something that they were doing to steal really Crystal's freedom. They want Crystal to be obedient to Amway, and they
Yeah,
want to suck every single dollar out of your pocket. And for you just to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, yes, how can I get with you upline? Can you coach me and mentor me in terms of what you need me and want me to do? Um, that's their thought process from, I would say it's not everybody, but the people that are running the ship, if that's how the people on the IBA board think, then guess what? There's a lot of other people that think like them in leadership. And ultimately, I don't think anybody should want to be able to associate with that.
I completely agree. So is that what led to your project and your website that you were going to talk about?
Yeah, so what led to my project and my website was really just how I was treated for standing up for our country.
Yeah.
And so my website, I don't know if you want to bring it up or whatever, but wewillstand.info is my website. And wewillstand.info has my letter that I delivered,
Okay.
who's the chairman of the IBA board, which is the highest, biggest grand poobah position of all of Amway. And you know what? He earned it for years. Here's the problem, though, is that once he got it, he couldn't get out of it.
Hmm.
And so there's lots of people praying for these people that they would do the right thing. They would do the right things. And what happened was they just took the greed part and whatever contracts, whatever they signed, whatever they did, they turned their backs on the people that they're supposed to be helping. And so I built my website. I put together some facts and details in there. And then people just wanted to hear my story. So I posted some videos and interviews in there. I'll put yours in there. But ultimately, I did what I didn't want to do, and that was I filed a federal lawsuit against these guys. And so that's a battle that I'm dealing with right now.
Okay.
And people can help us. There's other people. This is turning into a class action lawsuit as well. But what's happened now is that people are starting to stand up. They're starting to realize, hey, there's some funny monkey business going on over here,
Mhm.
and we want answers. We want legitimate answers. And to be honest, quite honest, we live in the United States of America, right?
Mhm.
There's supposed to be what's called election integrity.
Mhm.
What people don't want to know is that Amway technically has been buying off elections for years, years, putting in candidates that they want to for a world agenda. And a lot of people in the past, they'd be like, oh, that's a weird, crazy conspiracy theory. No, it's actually been proven now. And these people literally have been cohorting, that's a word, cohort, working together to plan some of these things. And unfortunately, if you're in my upline and you heard me talk to you, you heard me ask you questions, and you turned a blind eye, I'm sorry, that's on you. You're going to have to deal with those types of things. And so, what's really great, my dog's barking. Sorry about that.
Oh, I can't hear it.
But what's really great is that I sent this to a lot of people in Congress,
Okay.
a lot, and a lot did not get back to me, but a few did.
Okay. Good.
And so I will tell everybody that there is hope. There's still hope to turn this whole thing around. And that what it takes is it takes people that are willing to stand up and say, you know what? I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're Hispanic. I don't care if you're a Jew. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care whatever it is. But there is something inside of you that says, hey, I'm willing to stand up for what's honest and true. And I am willing to protect my country because we are the last Sebastian of freedom on this planet. And there's other forces and other countries that don't want America to succeed because all the other ones have been turned over. They're tyrannical countries that don't allow you to have freedom. And so they're trying to divide us. And so what a lot of people don't know, and people are starting to learn this now,
Mhm.
but these families are trying to start a civil war. What they're trying to do is they're trying to pit people like Crystal against Judah. They see our skin color and they think, oh, hey, that's something we can divide them on. No, we're the same. We're the same. We have the same feelings. We have the same concerns. We have the same finances. We have the same issues. We have all the same things going on. But they try to pit us against each other. And then what they do, believe it or not, Amway funded BLM. They funded it and they deliberately, these people came back and burned down major cities,
I saw it.
burned down Minnesota, burned down Oregon, they burned down Columbus, Ohio, they burned down DC. That's on the hands of those that were involved with the Amway business.
Wow.
And you and I, unfortunately, we funded it. And that's part of the class action lawsuit there is because I didn't sign up in a business to fund the destruction and the overthrow of my own country.
Right. It's so much deception. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's totally right. And what's really cool is that I have met a lot of heroes. There's some incredible people on both sides actually who are getting to the bottom of this. And
Right.
they are pissed off. They're so upset. So
Yeah.
Amway's going to be uh, eventually a household name of what never to do again.
Good. So um I'm gonna make sure to put your website in the description because it is a wealth of information. Um, one last question. What advice do you have to someone who is in but wants to get out now that they've realized these things? What would you let them know? And then what advice do you have for the person that's in, but they're like, nope, I'm still going diamond. I don't care what you say, I'm going diamond. What would you say to those two sets of people?
Let's start with the last set. If you're leaning your ladder up against the wrong wall, I pray, I pray that you have discernment and you have the will and the ability to listen. In Russia, they had large Amway businesses over there. Not too long ago, maybe 8 months ago, maybe a year ago,
Mhm.
overnight, they stopped doing business in Russia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
All those IBOs were left holding no more income. It was turned off.
I didn't know that.
And
Oh,
and don't you think it's a shame that nobody in your upline is actually telling you the truth about that?
I had no clue. Wow. Wow.
And in other countries, different things are happening. So if you're wanting to go diamond, I would say this. If you can do it honestly, you're a better man than I am. And I did a darn good job to protect and respect my people. And if you see corruption and you see something wrong, speak up, say something, ask a question. Say, you know what? We need to right the ship on this topic. So that's my advice to them. What was the other topic you said?
The advice is somebody who is in but wants to get out but doesn't really know how.
Yeah, the peer pressure that they put on people, that's typically what's holding you in as relationships
Mm.
because we already know you're not making any money. So instead of them dragging you down and stealing more of your money, my aspect is this is there's hope in the world because there's so much you can do with what you've learned,
Mhm.
and you're so much better than the Amway business or the LTD business or Brit Worldwide or Worldwide Group or whatever it is. You can accomplish more than what you do in the business. And so what's interesting is I have so many people, I hear them all the time. They've been in for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, still thinking that they're going to make it in the business. And as a hope for that, look at logic, look at your book of business, look at your checkbook, look at your P&L of your taxes and realize it's going backwards.
Yeah.
And the deception that they use is the guilt of the carrot. Now, again, I'm still a believer. I left the business, I got out of it. They're going to hold you to it and say, well, you came to Christ through one of our meetings. If that's their go-to card, I'm going to tell you what, that's called a cult. And that is a cult, is a deception that wants to keep you robbed and blind. And to be honest with you, God wants better for you. They want you to be able to succeed and get out of your situation that you have and know that inside of you, you're designed with a purpose. And you know what? You're created for a better calling in this world. And go create a better Amway. Go create something bigger and better that's honest, right? And so I have a friend of mine, he's got a website. His name's LT, and he has a thing, it's called And We Know,
Okay.
andweknow.com. He's got a ministry and does some things in there, but he's got so many other businesses that you can plug into, things that are honest, different views of different media, explaining, you know what, how the left and the right work. And, you know, hey, we're not here to compete against each other. They want to divide us, but we're here to be able to succeed and do things together. And so what's interesting is, and someone said this all the time, if you don't know what a rhino is, it says rhino is a Republican in name only. It means that they're not even a, we don't even say Democrat. There's a difference between good and evil. And a Luciferian is someone who has a Baal worship mentality. It means they're going to put those things above their God.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to make idols of men and they're going to make idols of other people. And we just want to stand for what's good, what's honest, what's right, and do things with integrity. You know, if LTD has that diamond ring that has all those uh,
Words on them and
words on it, why not actually stand for it?
why don't they actually do it?
Exactly. And so it's this thing. Yeah, someone said this the other day. Say they make $30 million last year in terms of LTD. How many people actually participated in that payment program? How many people did they divide it up for? How many people kept the purse? And you start realizing the numbers are not in your fair advantage. And from a business perspective, it doesn't matter. There's some people who are like, oh, well, I'm going to succeed no matter what. I'm going to be one of those elite, succeeding one percenters. Go for it, man. Go for it. If that's what you want to do, you'll see a body of destruction of people behind you who've been hurt, who've lost money because you want to put your ego on a shelf. And so, anyways, man, life's been great. It's been so exciting being outside the business. I
Yeah.
spent 22 years going to functions, going to open meetings, doing all this other type of stuff, having controlling mindset over what I can do at church or with my relationship with Christ because they said, hey, you're only a Christian because you came to this business. I'm like, no, I came to the business. If I found Christ, he came to set me free.
Right. Not to trap me.
Yeah, he came to set the captives free, not to enslave us.
Yeah,
And so you guys want to enslave us, and you know what? That's where we have a difference of opinion.
absolutely. Judah, thank you so much for your time. This was a wealth of information and some eye-opening topics as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Judah. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, your expressions, how you feel about his experience while he was in. And again, as I always say, thank you so much for everybody that's commenting, emailing, sharing your experience with everybody else, and just letting it be a way for us to vent, heal, and also warn others of the possibilities of getting involved with these organizations. If you want to file a complaint with the FTC, of course, I have the link below as per usual. Go ahead and click that link and you can begin filing your complaint. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always email me, comment. I reply to comments as often as I can, and I do reply to emails. So my email is listed below. Information for Judah is also listed below, his website, his contact information, and anything else you would like to reach out to him about. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.